Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. I want to show you the project that we just finished on our power tool workshop. Now, we have been broadcasting for 2.5 years. This is our third project. The first one was an assembly bench. The second one you may have already seen. We did a video clip on our workbench made out of bird's eye maple, and mahogany. And this is a 5-drawer chest of drawers made out of cherry with poplar drawer sides and native northern white cedar drawer bottoms. Took us 100 episodes. Each episode's a half an hour long, so that would be 50 hours, and probably did another 25, maybe even as much as 30 hours off camera. And what we would do is, if we were dovetailing 4 corners, we wouldn't film all 4. We might do 2 and then do 2 off camera just to save time. Anyway, let me start with some of the features on the outside, and then we'll open up the drawers and show you what we did on the inside. The case is made out of MDF core cherry plywood. Now, I prefer MDF core because it has no voids. If you've ever worked with veneer core, sometimes when they make it, the veneers will overlap each other and you'll get a thick spot, or there may be a knot close to the surface and you get a hollow spot just underneath the thin exterior veneer. With MDF core, they're using medium density fiberboard that has the veneer applied to both sides. I just find that it's a great product. I really like it. Presents a few challenges, but I'll show you how we worked around those. So if you can pick this up, the grain starts down here on the bottom and it comes up. I don't know if you're able to follow this or not, Frick, but see if you can. It comes up, it goes across the top, and then it goes down the other side. So it was one strip of plywood that was 16 inches wide, and the sides are a little over 3 feet, so 3, 6, and a little less than 2 feet. So we almost used a complete 8-foot strip, 16 inches wide. Now, the first thing I do after I've cut out that strip is I glue on solid lippings on both front and back. And this cherry is, I can see it easier on this side, it's about 1 inch wide. And the idea is to try to blend the joint as well as you can so that you can't see it, but in some areas you will. So that gives me a good, solid, workable front edge and back edge, and I'll show you why I want it on the back. Now, when you're building something out of plywood, you really don't want to leave any exposed edges, particularly on the bottom, because as you move this chest of drawers, if something catches, it'll easily tear that veneer off. So what I did on the bottoms is I put in a 1/4 inch strip of solid wood in between the 2 strips on the outside. So that was done first, and the solid lippings were applied on the outside. Now, I don't use anything here other than butt joint because I've tested it, and you get an extremely good joint when gluing the solid wood onto the edge of MDF. Okay, now come around here to the back. And by the way, this is sprayed with several coats of a product made by Becker Chroma. It's a lacquer. It goes on nice, it dries fast, and it's really easy to repair should something get scratched. On the back, a lot of times you'll find that the back is simply a piece of plywood set into a rabbet on 3 sides. I don't think that looks so neat. So what I do is I cut a groove and then fit the plywood. This is a piece of, this is 3/8 inch thick Baltic birch plywood. So I actually had to cut a rabbet on the edge to make that fit a little bit better. That's why you see that little reveal all the way around. And then I use brass screws to screw into the drawer dividers. And what that does, it just adds a little extra support to prevent those drawer dividers from sagging over time. And on the bottom edge, I put in a few extra screws to keep that nice and tight to the bottom. And I also kept this plywood about 1/16 of an inch up from the actual bottom that rests on the floor, so that you didn't have to worry about that veneer getting pulled off when this is moved along the floor. Nice and solid too. All right, let's work at the front. This is heavy, by the way. I'm guessing it weighs probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 85, 90 pounds, which is nice because it won't tip over when the drawers are out and it's nice and solid. What we did for handles, I like to, it's not shaker furniture, but I certainly love the fact that shakers didn't use anything superfluous. Everything had a purpose, and it was usually the joinery and the wood itself that was the dressy part of the piece. So if you kind of imagine shaker meeting country contemporary, this is what we ended up with. And Alan Peters, who was my mentor, used to do this a lot to integrate the handle into the piece as opposed to having something added on. And if you have children and you have drawer knobs, they're going to come off. So and they get used as steps to get up to the top and everything else. So this works great. So the divider has a little recess, allows you to reach in, and underneath the drawer there's an area routed out where you can get your fingers. I'll actually pull that drawer out and let them see it. And the divider itself is a frame made out of cherry and then poplar on the 3 back sides. So we have mortise and tenon joints on all 4 corners. We have 1/8 inch baltic birch plywood for a dust panel. And that also makes that one sealed unit, so when you open and close the doors, it actually closes against a cushion of air. You can feel that blowing out. These are your drawer stops. Now, the way a drawer should fit properly is no drawer guides, just a box fitting in a hole. But there should be no detectable side-to-side movement. So what you have to deal with in drawer construction is seasonal movement of wood. Well, this drawer is not going to get any longer this way. It is, however, going to grow in height as the surrounding atmosphere is more moist, and in my case where I live in the summer, August, September, where high humidity, the wood is going to have absorbed extra moisture and these sides are going to get taller. So when you build this, you have to allow for that. And it's always a bit of guesswork. In the wintertime, as the air dries out, the wood being hygroscopic will give off that moisture and it will shrink. So it's always easier to build your chest of drawers in the most humid part of the year, because if it just clears then, you're certainly not going to have binding issues in the winter. But if you build in the winter, you always run the risk of it binding. So you better be close by with a hand plane for at least a couple of years, because it'll be a cycle where one year will be a little more moist than another. All right, back to the drawer. So no movement side to side. Enough movement up this way to prevent any binding seasonally. Now what I did, I took one particularly pretty piece of cherry, and I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera or not, but there's some really nice figure in this piece of cherry. But you'll also notice that the grain is very similar from one piece to the other, because I took that piece of cherry and I sliced it 5 times. So that's an 1/8 inch thick material. So when I built the drawer, of course these are all dovetailed by hand, I built the drawer with a cherry drawer front and a regular through dovetail on the front. Then I took that piece of veneer that I had made and I glued it on, applied it to the front, and a good glue joint makes the piece homogeneous, so that's not going to fail. But it allows me to get a nice uniform half-blind dovetail, and it enables me to play with the drawer fronts and get that look that I'm after. The drawer is dovetailed on the back as well. The drawer bottom is a solid piece of northern white cedar, which is very light. It's aromatic. And when you build drawers, again, you have to allow for cross-grain construction. So this drawer bottom has to be allowed to move this way. So you always run your drawer bottoms with the grain running parallel to the drawer front, and the movement allows for it to expand this way. And the way we do that is the drawer bottom is housed in a groove on 3 sides, glued to the front, and ideally you want the drawer to actually sit right in the bottom of the groove on the sides. And what that does is prevent the drawer from racking, makes it very, very strong. And then to allow for the seasonal movement, the drawer bottom passes over the drawer back. There are slots cut in the drawer bottom itself, and as this wood grows, it will slide underneath those large washers, and as it shrinks, it'll pull in. And what I did, I don't like the look of it, but I like the function. I have 2 steel screws running against each other. Pardon me, this screw actually has a big head on it, and I have another washer underneath, because I find the metal on metal will slide a lot easier. Because this wood is so soft, if you just try putting a single screw in there, it'll actually dig down into the wood. And although the wood will actually crush under the seasonal movement, it then works itself a little bit loose. So I think this is a better solution. And there's our little finger recess that we just did with a 3/4 inch core box bit. And our drawer stops are mounted up here in the front. And that's so that the reveal that you have out here in the front will never change. Now this is a plywood case, so it's not going to move, but if the box or the carcass itself is made out of solid wood, as it expands, I used to actually build my drawers so that they would close where they bump against the back. However, what would happen is as the case would shrink, the drawer in the wintertime would be sticking out farther than it would be in the summer when the case expands. So you're always better off to stop your drawers against drawer stops right up here close to the front. What else did I want to show you on this? I'm sure there was something else I wanted to tell you. Well, anyway, we have a recess underneath here so that you can stand close to it. A toe kick if it was cabinet work, but same idea on a piece of furniture. I can't think of anything else to tell you other than the fact that if you're interested in how we build this or following along with it, you're welcome to go on our site, workshop.com. You can actually sign up for a free month, try it out, see if you like it. If you want to join, all the information on how to do that is on there. We have an online forum where we can converse with our members. If you have a question, you ask it, and I try to monitor that 2 or 3 times a day. And sometimes the questions are such that we actually will film the answer on the next episode that we shoot. Okay? Hope to see you in my shop sometime soon, or back here on YouTube, or even better, in our online workshop. See ya.